YouTube. Um, as you can see by the title, today's video is going to be a review on the Mauser C96. Now, the difference between a review and a presentation is that for a presentation, I'm just going to talk about the history of the firearm, but with the review, we're actually going to go to the range. We'll put some rounds through it. It could be a reliability run, which this one was, or a test run for the gun. Now, the Mauser C96. I got this gun probably about 2 or 3 years ago, and I got it because of
Resident Evil 4.
Of course. You know, me and my elder brother, we played a lot of the old PlayStation games. Silent Hill, Parasite Eve 2, Final Fantasy, of course Resident Evil, and I remember this gun. You know, this is a very distinct gun you get in the game. It's actually the most powerful handgun in the game, especially after upgrading it. Granted, I'm sure the Broken Butterfly is stronger, but you're gonna have trouble finding ammunition for that gun. So in terms of availability, this was the most powerful handgun in that game. Now, the one thing that was distinct to me was the way that you loaded the gun. This has an internal box magazine. You know, this is not detachable, although future versions of the gun, they did have detachable box magazines. The way you would load the gun is that you pull the bolt back, and then it would catch on the lip of the magazine spring, and then you have to put in a stripper clip with 10 rounds of 7.63 by 25 or 30 Mauser, and then you push the rounds in, and then you take the stripper clip out, and then the gun would be fully loaded. Now, some history for the gun is that this was made in 1896, and it was in production up until about 1937. And as I said, the caliber is 7.63 by 25 millimeter or 30 Mauser, but there were different chamberings as the years went on. I think there was one in 7.63 by maybe 51 millimeter. And then, of course, there is 9 millimeter or 9 millimeter Luger. This gun was chambered for that as well. And that began, I believe, around World War II. Basically, the Imperial German Army, they had moved from this gun to the Luger P08, which was chambered in 9 millimeter. The problem was that it took a long time to produce this gun. It wasn't a bad gun, but it was just mechanically difficult. You know, it took a lot of time, even though it was a great firearm. And so what the Imperial German Army did was that they asked for 150,000 of these, but to chamber it in 9 millimeter instead, so that soldiers weren't walking around with two different kinds of ammunition for two different kinds of guns. That would be incredibly difficult to do. And to prevent people from incorrectly loading the gun, because I think 7.63 by 25 millimeter is pretty close to 9 millimeter, you could actually accidentally interchange those rounds, and you should never use a round that is not supposed to go in a firearm. You know, if a firearm's chambered for a certain round, even if another one looks like it could fit, you never want to do that. You're asking for an explosion. Now, as I said, to prevent that mistake, the Germans actually put a 9 here, you know, a red 9 here, just to help soldiers know that, hey, this gun takes 9 millimeter. Don't screw it up and put 7.63 by 25. Now, as far as having a red 9, there are services that will rebarrel a 7.63 by 25. It will change it from a 30 Mauser to a 9 millimeter. It depends on how much steel is left in the barrel. If there's enough, then they will just rebore it for 9 millimeter. If there isn't enough, they'll actually put in a liner so that it can chamber 9 millimeter. And then some, they'll just completely take off the barrel and put in a 9 millimeter barrel. I think that's what this one is. Now, I'm sure this is not a authentic red 9, like one of the 150,000s. There is a way to tell. The biggest one is the sights. The sights that I have here are 50 to 1,000, and that's actually the 30 Mauser sight. I think if you have a real red 9, their sight is like maybe 100 to 500. And then as far as the red 9 grip itself, there's supposed to be 24 grooves. Now this one's 12, so obviously it's not 24, but you'll hear reports of people saying that the grooves is 33 or something like that, but most people will agree it's 24 grooves. just so you know if you have a legit Red 9, if that's what you want. I didn't. I'm actually okay with the caliber rework because I do want to shoot the gun. Granted, you really can't shoot this gun that much, like not recreational wise. We are talking about something that was made about 110 years ago. So, you know, you can't really use it as often as you'd like. Now, despite its age, I do have a feeling that it was somewhat refurbished. Um, I'm sure some parts here are actually new, and I looked at the bore too when I was cleaning the gun, and it looks pretty good. I think it might be one of those that it was rebarreled for 9mm, and I would rather have that over an authentic Red 9. I think there are people who want that already, mostly as vintage collection, and that's fine if that's what they want. But I knew I wanted to shoot this gun because I played Resident Evil 4. And my plan was to go about 100 rounds of Syntec ammo. I got that a long time ago. It kind of looks like red lipstick. It's 150 grains. It's supposed to be cleaner ammunition. I really shouldn't have bought that, but I don't know. It just looked different to me, so I got it. So I know that has nothing to do with what I would usually use, which is Federal 115 grain 9mm. So I just wanted to just dump the 100 rounds of Syntec through it, and then I would test it one more time with Federal American Eagle 115. Now I have to apologize for the footage. I actually had a really good camera glasses. It was the pivot head, but it doesn't work anymore. And then when I left a message for like troubleshooting, I never got a response. So I like those camera glasses. If you have them, the pivot head, that's actually the best. But I mean, if they're done, they're done. You can't use them anymore. So I had to go on this lower quality one that I got. Just your typical off-brand. It doesn't look that good, but I think it'll help demonstrate my experience at the range. So the first big issue with my Mauser C96, I actually couldn't get 10 rounds in the stripper clip. Well, I can get it in the stripper clip. I couldn't get it in the gun. The last round was just painfully impossible to put. I know that in the past I was able to do it if I really sacrificed my thumb, but it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth trying to do that, 10 times to run 100 rounds of ammunition to the gun. So I actually ended up just running 9 rounds per stripper clip. Another issue was that I got tons of failures to feed. There were plenty of times where the first round would fail to feed. After the first round fired, it would fail to feed. That was very common. Out of 9 rounds, there at least was 3 or 4 failures to feed. Anywhere from the first stripper clip to like the last, it was always 2 or 3 failures to feed. And fixing that in this firearm is ridiculously painful. Because you have to remember, there's no detachable box magazine, right? So you can't just pop it out and then clear the gun. You can't do that, right? The gun is stuck. It's jammed. You imagine that? You're in a war and the gun is stuck, like you're dead. But if you want to clear it, here's what you have to do. You hold the bolt back, okay? Because it's trying to run through, but it can't. So hold the bolt back, and then you have to push down on the round, push it back to put it into place, and then let the round slide through again. And I was able to do that. Granted, there's a little finesse in that, and that takes quite a bit of time and focus. Not something you want to do in the middle of a battlefield. But yeah, if this gun fails to feed, you are mega screwed. Now, when the gun runs well, it runs well. And when the gun doesn't run well, it doesn't run well. Now, I may have noticed about 2 situations where I thought I felt hammer bite, but I wasn't really sure. It's a little bit difficult to decide how you want to hold this gun. The grip here, which is known as the broom handle, man, you get a newfound respect for wooden grips, because this is not something that fits your hand very well. It's very awkward. It's very uncomfortable, So the first I thought was, okay, I'll just do it like you would any other gun, right? The main hand goes on, and then your support hand goes over. And I thought that was okay, but then I could have sworn I got hammer bite. So I was like, okay, let me change it again. So I put this hand over top the other one, That's what I do for revolvers. So I'll do this for any autoloader, but then I will switch to this on a revolver. So I did that instead. And other than one time, I thought I got hammer bite, but it was okay. I really didn't notice it after that. It was fine. So that's the way that I was shooting it, was one hand over the way I would with a revolver, and not like this that you would do with an autoloader. Now, of course, the big question is going to be, why didn't I use the stock? I did get this gun with the stock and the holster. Well, the first thing is that I had a limited time limit. The range was like 20 bucks for half an hour, and then you're just gonna get charged more if you stay there. So I'm sitting here trying to fix the failures to feed, and then try to run 100 rounds of Syntech ammo, and then try to run a box of Federal 115, which I did fail. I wasn't able to do that, and I didn't have enough time. So yes, I really should have shot this gun with the stock. If I somehow end up at a range where I am not limited in time, and I can actually test something thoroughly, then I'd very much look forward to shooting it with the stock. Now, the next thing to talk about is the accuracy of the gun. Keep in mind, this is a 110-year-old gun. I think this was made maybe like 1908. Okay, so it's like 110 years old. The accuracy was pretty good, actually. It was very surprising. It hit high. It did hit high, and that was with the 150 grain. Now, when I shot just 9 rounds of 115 Federal, it shot even higher, And I think the sights are set pretty, let me see. Yeah, aren't the sights, yeah, it's set pretty low already. It's set at the lowest setting, and it was still hitting high with the Syntech, and even a little bit higher with the Federal 115, which is interesting because I always thought that when, whatever your first weight ammo that you shoot at, and it's here, if you shoot a lighter bullet, you think it would go lower because the bullet's leaving faster, right? So if we're hitting here at 150 grains, right, then if we go down to 115 grain, you would think that, okay, the bullet leaves the barrel faster, so it would hit lower. But here it's actually sitting higher. So I know there's many factors to that. For example, the gunpowder recipe might be a bit stronger, and that's why it would shoot higher. But it's nice to know the windage is right on. It wasn't anywhere left or right. It was right on. That's nice. It's just hitting a little bit high. So my final thoughts. For a 110-year-old gun, I had a good time. I mean, my thumb didn't have a good time trying to fix failures to feed, but it was a good time. I liked it. When the gun ran well, I felt a little bit like Leon Kennedy. When it didn't run well, I felt absolutely terrible. But it's fine, I would take this to the range again. Hopefully not with limited time, and I can test out the accuracy 100%. Like I said, I was trying to get through rounds pretty quick, I thought I was going to get through 150 rounds, but I ended up going through 109 rounds. So, I had to go pretty fast. And then I would love to shoot this with the stock, and that can only happen if the price of ammo isn't terrible. It's still terrible. I go to Shields and I see the ammo, and it's 2 times as expensive, and it's like, I'm not paying for that. No, I'm not going to. Okay, like, why? Why is ammo price terrible right now? That's okay. Anyways, that's all I have to say for the Mauser C96. I like it. I look forward to shooting it again someday, and hopefully we can do much thorough testing. We can test out the stock. Hopefully it runs better. Like I said, some parts of this are refurbished. That's why it runs pretty well, being as old as it is. But I don't think it was completely refurbished. So it is going to have, 100-year-old parts that are not running well with the new parts. So I hope this video was interesting for you guys. Other than that, I hope you guys take care. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.